Rise for pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need a motion to appoint Cecilia Clerk Pro Temp.
Motion to appoint Cecilia Clerk Pro Temp.
Anthony, second.
Hard to say.
Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. 5. 6 up, so 6 up, sorry. Roll call, please, Cecilia.
Ms. Flynn?
Delayed.
Ms. Hewer? Present. Ms. Patchen? Here. Mr. Sang?
Here.
Mr. Wolf?
Present.
Mr. Rotowski?
He's excused.
Mr. Zoff?
Excused.
Ms. Gatson? Present. And Mr. White?
Here. Fire exits, please, Anne Marie.
Fire exits are in the rear of the LGI.
All right. I need a motion to adjourn to executive session.
Motion to adjourn to executive session to review the employment history of particular individuals and to seek legal advice from the school attorney, state law, attorney-client privilege.
Second.
Georgia. Before we start today's meeting, I just want you to notice that some board members are in purple, and we're going to read a statement as to why the board members are in purple. I think Meredith has her purple shoes on. Mike, if you could zoom in on that for the at-home audience to know that she's wearing purple there, that would be great. Kenny wants to read the statement.
So board members of the district would like to recognize the month of the military children. Month of Military Children is Purple Up. On April 21st, 2017, every April, military children have reason to celebrate. Why? April marks the nation's month of the military child. This month has been set aside to recognize the sacrifice that the children and youth of our military personnel make when parents serve in the military. Their children serve too. These children and youth are a source of pride and honor to us all, and it is only fitting that we take time to recognize their contributions, celebrate their spirit, and let our men and women in uniform know that while they are taking care of us, we are taking care of their children and youth. We are encouraging everyone to wear purple on Friday, April 21st, as a visible way to show support and thank military children for their strength and sacrifices. Purple is the color that symbolizes all branches of the military, as it is the combination of Army green, Marine red, Navy blue, Air Force blue, and Coast Guard blue. We hope everyone will take this opportunity to appreciate and celebrate these young heroes. Be creative. The goal is for the military youth to actually see the support of their community. Please take the time for him or her or them to show your appreciation to all military children.
So we do recognize that it is the 25th, and this was on April 1st. However, the 21st. Today's the 25th, though. Yes. Okay. So we just wanted to. I wasn't aware that April is the month of military children until someone pointed out to our attention, and it was someone that is deployed currently and has children in the Beacon City School District that made the district aware of it. So we thought that as the board, we could try to educate the public that, you know, April can be the month of military children, and they wear purple in support of it. And just to keep the children in mind, because we usually thank the soldiers. However, I self-reflected and noticed, I was like, oh yeah, I always say, you know, thank you for your service to military service people, but not to the families as well. And it is a whole family commitment. So we just wanted to say thank you to the military families and children for your sacrifices and keeping us safe. Anybody else want to say anything? Good. All right. So our workshop tonight is on board goals. So as you will remember, we discussed some board goals. We came up with topics, and then we broke up into subgroups, and we were working on the language. We tried to do this through the emails and so forth. However, nothing's as good as real conversation to get it going. So what we're going to do tonight, because we had from the 17th to the 25th that all of the goals would be shared, and then, you know, we could adopt them tonight. I don't think that that's a reality based on what has been shared. Am I misconstruing that, or do people feel the same way?
I only know the committees that I was on. I felt like we were in good shape.
Right, we were going to share. So the committees that each person was on was going to share it with the whole
Sure,
board.
yeah.
And I don't know if that, it has, I know the committees I was on, it wasn't shared with the whole board.
Yeah, diversity shared with the whole board already.
That was the
Okay.
only one that.
That was the only one. All right, so maybe we can have a little bit of a conversation about the board goals and come up with some language that was shared within the groups, and then come up with a framework, and then we have our next board meeting on May 8th, and then we could look to adopt it. I asked Kristen to take some notes about the goals, so maybe you can then email what language or what we come close to, and then we could wordsmith it and then have something for the 8th. Alrighty, so the first goal that we had, I believe, was, hold on, let me get back there, was a communication goal. Is that correct? That was number 1. I believe that was a communication goal. And so what was shared with the committee, or the 3 people, I don't want to say committee, was there was something to improve communication with community, support of the district as a whole by promoting its positive attributes, maintaining open lines of communication, encourage parent and community member involvement. What we ended up with was to integrate, guide the community as the most effective method for communication with the district protocol, which we currently came up with. And have we posted that on the website yet? The communication protocol?
No, not, I think we were sharing it for one last read before we were gonna do that, but it's all ready to go.
I thought we adopted it the last meeting in the agenda. We
I
accepted
thought
the
so,
agenda,
too.
and it was in the agenda, and then we voted on the consent agenda.
It wasn't, my understanding, it was not on the agenda. I don't know if the communication protocol was something that had to be actually adopted. It's more of a,
System.
right, right.
Okay, so maybe we can come up with tonight with the members that are here. Did everyone review the communication protocol that was presented to us after
Yes.
the district had it and it was on the board docs? Is everyone fine with that being posted?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're on the way, so we can
We can
post that
post
on
it.
the website.
Yeah.
So we met a little bit of that goal.
Yeah.
Perfect. Begin to build trust in order to increase communication with both internal and external stakeholders by creating opportunities to listen to members of the district in an open and approachable way. So I would like to take some of that language, Kristen, and include it into what I was saying there, as well as Kenya had establishing a communication protocol that I found identifies the hierarchy within a department in order to streamline the calls to the correct personnel, to increase trust. So maybe if we could take Kenya's, because you combined like both of ours, to increase trust with families and community, creating a culture of cohesiveness, into improved communication. I would start with that, to increase, all right, I'm going to wordsmith it right here for you so you have something. To increase trust with families and community, creating a culture of cohesiveness, which improves communication with district as a whole by promoting its positive attributes, maintaining open lines of communication, and encouraging parent and community member involvement. I think that's a good starting point to share. Anybody have anything to add with that?
I found the word cohesiveness
Off?
odd.
Odd.
Just a little, like how.
me, right? That was me.
All right, so
But I just mean like, what are we trying to get at with that word?
That we're together.
Such unity.
Do you think the communication and the community engagement goal should be
we could join it.
folded?
I think they should be folded, yeah.
Here's what I had for the community engagement goal: to seek the involvement, collaboration, and participation of the entire community in the learning process in order to promote and support student success. And I feel like that's very, so much of that has to do with communication. And if you just add community engagement to what you're having the
Yeah, I think that would be.
Then I would separate out that captures what we're trying to go for with the with community engagement and partially covers what we're talking about in communication. But then I think our board goal with communication should be
Right,
a
there's-
little bit different.
that's
It
a
should
little more-
focus on everybody.
Well, I
not just-
feel like there's like that's almost like a technical.
It's a mechanics thing.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like we should.
Which we sort of, with the protocol, communication protocol, I mean, in a way, we've already satisfied that goal. We've created that. It needs to be publicized, and
followed.
But I'm just worried that I don't want that protocol to be the only communication
Goal.
from the district.
Well, I guess the thing is that I feel like the protocol gives some mechanics of how the community should engage with issues related to the district. But I think communication relates to how information comes from the district. And so I think, for example, the night that we were here when we celebrated the valedictorians and the salutatorians, and then what I thought was a truly amazing accomplishment, that those two students raising money for that.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who's ever had to raise money, you're excited when you meet an ambitious goal, let alone exceed an ambitious goal.
Mhm.
And it kind of made me sad that it
ended there.
it was only here. I mean, while the board meetings are important, we tend to speak to the same audience, and then maybe there's people at home watching, but there needs to be other ways that the district communicates with parents. Like, I wish those kids were on the landing page for that full week after that meeting. Like, this is who our salutatorian is, this is who our valedictorian is, this is this amazing thing that happened, because then we're promoting something. We're promoting the good things, and Mike's not here, but celebrating the successes. I feel like the communication needs to go beyond the board meeting.
Right, and that's why I tried to put in my segment about as a whole, by promoting its positive attributes, maintaining open lines of communication. So that can always be communicated
Right.
through the buildings, through the district, through parents,
Yeah.
whatever means, but we need to open that up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
like-
and I didn't understand that at the time, and I will say I did come shoot down
You what?
your draft in our emails, but now I see, I feel like once we've separated out the community engagement part from it, now I agree with you.
Or so maybe it should be more of a technical goal, and the community engagement goal should take a little bit of what you've got in the communication goal.
So did you capture what Meredith was saying for the?
Well, she read it from what we have in the email.
Okay.
So I have a version of that. I have that version, and I don't think we're changing that. I think now what we're talking about is actually changing communication, and I guess this is like a real discussion about how, do we have? I would think, and I don't know if it's a board goal, but I think the district should have a communications plan, and there should be somebody responsible for communications. I was going to save this for my board comments, but it's relevant here. At our wellness committee meeting, we did kind of a, post family, fitness night analysis of what went well and what we would change. And there were so many things that went so well, and we just kept talking about how successful that event was. And then we realized no one, unless you were there, you didn't really know about it. And we had so many community partners, and so many people show up. And there was the person from the PR firm who had come.
Hotline.
And he took pictures, he talked to people, and then I'm wondering, how does it go from him coming, taking pictures, because I know Karen hadn't seen any of the pictures. So what happens? Where does the loop close for him? Like, who does he send the pictures to? What is his plan? Like, does he have press contacts? And and I'm sure he's perfectly nice, and this isn't evaluating him, but it's like that, if it's not getting out there, then he's kind of not, if that's part of his job, then he's not doing it.
So he has a small contract with us, and he does most of the mainly the newsletters, the postcards. He didn't do a newsletter before. If we call him, so example, we had a celebration at Forrester where a child was the ambassador for Maria Ferreri. We did call him and asked him to call the press, and the press was there, because you
Okay.
saw a lot of press on that as well.
Okay.
So we have to clarify his role.
Sure.
He's never been the public relations person. We had asked him to be that, but he has his own business. So that's where we kind of struggle. So that's a goal.
Right.
I mean, that's a.
So as a district though, he came, he took pictures that night, and he talked to people. So does he write something up and give it to somebody? Like, if the person who's the head of the wellness committee doesn't get those pictures, I know Meredith does pictures for the Calico Ball. So
I think the first question that we have to ask was he there on district business, or was he there for personal reasons?
Oh, well, he seemed like he was there for.
But he has children.
Right. So that's
I don't know.
that's where
oh, did they come to Family Fitness Night? 'Cause
Right.
Then that was confusing because the people on the committee definitely thought he was there.
So the other part is, so we're starting, I'm going to say this in superintendent's report, but we're starting the budget postcard, the budget newsletter, and those pictures and those events, we want to put out in newsletters. So that will be, the pictures of the family fun, the fitness night, and the things that are going on in the schools will be used in the newsletter to kind of move forward. The other thing, just so you know, Karen and I spoke today about her doing a social media. So we think, you know, she wanted us to share information, but putting it in the backpack or putting it on the website, people don't see it. So she wanted to actually create a Facebook page or a Twitter page to get the information out. Because I told her that I was more successful with the Facebook page,
Right.
but as the food service and the wellness to try to get
Right.
that information out. So I think we have to be better at that. We have to
Right.
kind of identify the way it will get out. I think social media tends to be the way.
Okay.
Because people can see it and share it and, you know, do that.
So I will say though that I don't think that we should exclude the website then, because the thing is, if you don't have things on your website, then people don't go to your website, because if they know it's not a source of information and it's not updated and they're not seeing anything, then they won't go. So
Right.
it limits its effectiveness as a tool, and I think that I was thinking about this in sort of a more global way too, because you know one of the things we talked about was about this like. It all comes down to communicating the positive side of the district, and you know we were talking about, we went into a very fine detail about all the different budgets, and everybody was very interested in how far we were busing certain students, and then we had that whole discussion about we should be focusing on special ed kids because they should go to the best place the best location for their placement. We should start trying to bring some of these private school kids back in district, because rather than transporting them and paying to transport them, we should see if there's any barriers to people coming to the district. And I bet a barrier is when you only hear things that have appeared about us in the press, and you don't hear all these good things like these amazing students, then that increases fear. We want to decrease fear and communicate all those good things.
Well, I think also, sorry.
Go ahead.
I think that, and this maybe is a separate conversation, but in some ways, I feel that maybe that particular contract should be rethought. And in general, I don't know what he bills. I'm looking at his contract right now. I don't know what it ends.
We can talk about that during program. I just want to try and stick on the goals
Okay.
and not the specific contracts.
Right, so promote,
Right.
I think, using all possible avenues, including social media, the website, and any press contacts to share information about what's happening in the district.
Okay.
And to kind of to control the narrative, like a little bit more.
You're going to share it, so
Okay.
you could tweak it any way you want when you share it with us. So the community one you have, correct?
Yes.
What was the third one? Was it diversity?
Yeah.
So the suggestion we had, and we had some goal suggestion, and we had how we're going to measure it. The Beacon School District is committed to, increase staff diversity to meet the educational and social emotional needs of all students, creating a culture of awareness, equality and safety while uniting school and community, fostering unity of the school and the community as a culturally aware and diverse entity, ensuring that all students in the Beacon School District receive an equitable education, and identifying and addressing the barriers that prevent students from completely experiencing all the district has to offer.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there, Anthony. I know that you have things to measure by and so forth.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be for the goal. That would be, that's not the goal. The goal is what you wrote there. I think that summed it up really well. So we have that in email, so we could, you were on it as well. So we could put that together for diversity. Did anybody have anything they wanted to add with that diversity goal? I thought it was great. Good job. Fiscal responsibility, Craig?
Yeah, so I wanted to clarify, we're talking about this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So probably in 2 months, we'll be starting this process over again for the next year? Or?
We will, but hopefully if we have goals developed from this year,
Mhm.
we could just adjust. It's not going through the initial process unless we feel that we want to create a new goal, or if we've met a goal. So then we could, like that one, that's pretty, that I could see that being carried over to next year, because that's not something. However, like the communication goal, like of the protocol, of developing a communication protocol for community members to go to, we kind of met that. So we might be able to, not have that for next year. So at least getting a foundation, so now we could always build to improve upon it. But we didn't have any goals, so it's hard. That's what's making it so long.
So we've had some discussion, fairly simple. There's, the Board of Education will work collaboratively with the superintendent to advocate for the financial needs of our district locally and at the state level, and work to secure public support for the 2017-18 budget that improves academic offerings and creates a capital reserve fund. And the board will update policy to require board advance approval for budget transfers greater than $5,000. That was suggested, by the way, from Mike Rutkowski, who's not here tonight. I see it's on the agenda as a formal policy adoption. So I guess we'll knock that one off tonight. That would be it.
I would like to, my recommendation would be to stop it after offerings.
Offering?
After offerings?
Academic offerings?
Correct.
Yeah. Why not include the capital reserve fund? We're doing that, as I understand.
But that's a voter.
Yeah, but that's-
It would be hard for it could be your goal to put it on for a vote.
So that would be part of the
That would be
whole.
Yeah, you're right. We're actually, that's in the advertisement, right, for.
It'll be on the ballot for everyone to
It
vote.
will be on the ballot,
Mhm.
right. So that's officially been done at this point, so this is
That's
moot.
Right,
Yeah.
so, and I think to keep it broader, because it's not just about the capital reserve funding and so forth, so we want everything to fit into the fiscal as much as possible and give direction as to go. So that would be something that could fit into if we say, because we're really, our most concern is the academic offerings, right? And how are we going to fiscally responsibly do that? And so I thought the language was pretty good about the Board of Education will work collaboratively with the superintendent to advocate for the financial needs of our district locally and at the state level, because we want to start advocating for our needs, especially with the foundation aid and stuff. We passed the resolution. And work to secure public support for the, and I would just change that, for the remainder of the 16-17 budget, or well, no, it's the 17-18 budget, you're right.
Actually, that's the budget that's just going to be
To pass.
publicized shortly. So
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so I would like if it ended after offerings.
that makes sense, because the rest is done.
Can you send that to
I'm forwarding to you right
Monica?
now. I was just forwarding to you, but then I got in the conversation, so. Then our fourth goal was curriculum, correct?
So I had, after back and forth between you and Georgia, provide a 21st century educational learning environment that meets students' needs and supports them to achieve their highest potential.
What does that mean? Computers and stuff like that?
Well, Anthony, do you want to speak to the 21st century? Because I actually,
I'm like, what
Like
does that
that
mean?
is like a buzzword
It's
that's
a
out there right
thing,
now
yeah.
about addressing education
Sure, so-
preparedness.
The way students are learning from the 19th century to the 20th century to the 21st century has dramatically changed. You know, the making of schools where they were modeled after factories, of mass production of factories, of, how you make goods over and over and over again. Well, the 21st century is, we're incorporating so much and careers are changing so rapidly that the student skills that are needed are more up to the 21st century. So whenever we're providing and developing curriculum, we're always keeping in mind how technology and 21st century learning needs are going to be a little bit more different than the past traditional learning needs.
So when we try to identify 21st century learning, we're pointing to technology and all of those other, like.
Well, we're pointing to current times.
I just want to.
that's not how I.
I don't want to
No.
So I'm just trying to understand it. That would be my.
No,
I
no,
didn't-
I think that's important to.
Right.
to make
I don't want you to think
A good
just
example of
technology.
that would be that kids tend to work collaboratively you work on projects, you learn to work on,
Right.
instead of project-based learning,
Or
it's more
integrating
collaboratively,
curriculum.
because nobody, when you go out to this working world, nobody is just given a task
Task
and
by
put into
themselves,
a room.
right.
You have to you have to learn team and, skills and project management and working with others, so.
I would say an example is us trying to develop the goals, how we, came together, had some small group conversation, whole group conversation, and going back. I use technology as an example, and I didn't mean it to say just technology.
No, I'm just asking. It's just,
No, I think that's a very good question because, I'm a Luddite. I toss this out the window and start writing on,
That's
slides.
what I do. I don't really.
But I think that the idea about the way children learn best has changed, and the expectations of how they're able to communicate and work and out in the working world has changed. So I think it's more reflecting that. The one word that is
I'm sorry. Go ahead. So when we see 21st century learning, like in a classroom, we're talking about, right? Where we're looking at students working in groups as opposed to working. Because I'm trying to see what that.
Don't think of it as one avenue, one path.
So it's just
Many
global
paths.
philosophy
of
of
learning.
Right, there's
There's
many
many
different
paths.
ways that you go. So it's more of the delta of the river
I got you.
instead of just the river.
I also
That
think a
there's
good
many ways.
example is the summer camp that's happening with the Beacon Institute. I mean, that is a completely integrated
Different.
curriculum where they're looking at science, but then one of the things that, or they're looking at, biology, but then they're also going to have a chef come and talk to them about, how to address these issues on a farm. But then they're also going to look at how they present the information, because communicating what they've learned is also going to be a part of that. And that whole experience is a perfect example of a 21st century.
No, I'm just saying that we have to have the ability to point to what it looks like. Like if you can't give someone an example of what that looks like, then it becomes a problem because I can't really see it. But
They know what 21st, the administrators and
Right.
teachers.
Although
I need to know as a parent. We need to.
But that camp, I think, is a great example.
Right, I think
That
that's a
camp
great
was
analogy.
perfect.
So okay.
But that was one thing I was caught up on a little bit too, is like Georgia had put some really good examples of how we would make this happen. But I left the goal itself as being pretty broad. The one word that for me that's missing is individual students. Like there's a lot of, there's been a lot of focus on trying to meet students' needs as individual learners, and I feel like that it would be good for that to be,
So right after meets,
meets individual students' needs is what I was going to say.
Yep.
So you look like you are just waiting to say something.
I'm thinking. But thank you.
so do you have the statement, Kristen, or
I'll forward it to you now.
and just add the
I am.
individual?
So you're adding that language, Meredith?
I am.
Good, 'cause I don't want to do your work for you.
Yeah, I'm sick of that.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay, so Kristen, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm texting my mother instructions how to put my son to bed. I apologize.
Just so the community knows, because I'm going to ask you to share this, like the 1, 2, 3, 4 with the board at a later time.
Sure.
But could you just kind of summarize the language that we have for the?
No, because I'm relying on what was
She's
just.
relying on
Okay.
I'm taking notes on what I'm going to edit,
Got it. Okay.
but I,
The community diversity and curriculum one, we're pretty straight. We're good on though.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I thought that everything,
Everything was good.
everything we have,
Financial. Right, there's a financial.
The
You must
fiscal
have looked
is,
up
yeah.
Financial.
No, we did that.
we did
No, you
fiscal,
don't
yeah.
have it on here.
We did
Oh, we talked about
we
it.
will work collaboratively
I'm
with
just saying, you don't
state
have
and
it.
local, with the superintendent to advocate for the
We
district.
just gotta remember that these have to be measurable. So
Right.
with the steps that are attached to the goals, I mean, they have to be
Right.
measurable so we know whether or not we met them.
Mm-hmm.
See.
All right. Anybody have anything else that they wanted to add?
This was good. I think we're moving along very well.
Good. All right. So for the rest of the agenda, we are going to, in reviewing the agenda, we are going to remove 13.15, policy 8. We're going to remove it from tonight's agenda. 13.15, and it's policy 84145. That's correct, Lake Georgia,
Yes.
that was the policy. All right, did anybody have any other corrections that they saw to the agenda? All right, seeing none, are there any student or school presentations? Any parent groups? Anybody for open to the public? We're laughing.
Do you have to stand up? Yeah, come to the podium.
Can we talk from here?
No, no.
No, doesn't work.
All right, interim superintendent report?
So I have two quick things. On the agenda this evening will be we're asking the board to adopt the school calendar. So that will be out. I have gotten some requests from parents for next year. So know that it will be approved tonight. We will disperse it and put it out on the website. So
We're never going paper again, I assume. It will remain as a digital.
you mean producing it as paper?
Yeah.
I don't like to ever say never. So
But that's-
right now it's just the one page document.
Oh, right,
right
yeah,
now, we haven't quite thought about that. I'd be open
Just
to
approving
discussion.
the
I'm just
calendar.
approving the calendar so that we could
Gotcha.
have the holidays set and
Gotcha.
move that forward. The other thing I wanted to mention also is that we just set to print the budget postcard. So that will be out from the printer on Monday so that the community should receive it in the mail sometime in the middle to late next week. And then right following that, we'll get the budget newsletter. And as you remember from years past, the newsletter gets mailed the day after the hearing. The hearing is our next board meeting, which is May 8th. So that will be a budget presentation to not only the board but to the public. So if there's questions, there will be a lot more budget information that will be put on the website prior to the hearing. So I just want to say it out loud again that people are welcome to come and ask questions. We are waiting on the newsletter because there's official documentation that must be mailed out to the public after the hearing but before the vote. And also the postcard does not include the board candidates. That will be in the newsletter. And we are having 4 propositions on the ballot, which is very different than what people are used to. So we're going to try to use some of the newsletter section to explain that and try to do little blurbs so that the people will know they won't be surprised going into to getting the ballot on voting day. So that's what I have.
Committee reports. Craig, any board comments?
Yeah, a few. In the process of going around the community to get signatures for running for the board, I pick up a lot of comment, and it's a rewarding experience to talk to a lot of different people. And I'm finding a general sense out there of, I'll call it cautious optimism about the future of the district. A lot of interest in what the new superintendent will be like. I think there's a sense in the community that we're moving out of one era into another and that it's a positive era. I hope that we can generate some more enthusiasm. Every time we come to these meetings, I feel we're still cleaning up some old business and that we're anxious to get on to what we really want to do, which is working on making the district better and moving forward and getting the progress train on the tracks and steaming it up. So that leaves me in a positive frame of mind. I wanted to say, since Mike Rakosi's not here, the facilities and operations planning for the capital budget is moving along. And nothing much new to report beyond what we've said before. As Mrs. Cordroni mentioned, we have one of the propositions relates to the Capital Reserve Fund being created, and I'm glad that's going to be explained. I think that needs some public explanation because it doesn't come up every year, and people may not know what it's about. So I think we should have some discussion about how we go about explaining that to the public so they understand that it doesn't have a negative impact on the tax situation.
So I can mention something in the hearing, because on the newsletter, we don't have a lot of room to explain, and so I will put a little blurb in the newsletter, but I will make a point to say something during the hearing. because that's something that will look different, and I think people don't want to be surprised on
Right,
vote day, so,
I agree.
okay.
Could there be something on the website as well?
Mhm.
Anthony?
I don't have much to say. We just met last week. I will say, well, do you want me to say something? I have
No,
the
I
Constitution
was,
in front of my-
you said you didn't have much to say, go
I
ahead.
can read some of the bylaws and okay. So the I think we're going on. We're getting to know each other. I think that our working relationships have improved on the board. I want to commend all my fellow board members for being patient with me as well as listening and improving our working relationships together. And those who are up for election, good luck.
Kristen?
The Wellness Committee met this past Thursday, and as I said earlier, we talked about Family Fitness Night, the Elementary Family Fitness Night, and analyzed what went well, what we'd like to change, how we want to plan it for next year. We also talked about the policy, which is still out there. It will be coming to you. I know that some of the language is with the admins right now. And then we also have pieces of that policy that each of us have taken responsibility for, whether it's how to handle celebrations in schools and the role food plays in that. And our next meeting is June 8th, and I'll just confirm that was sort of thrown out there. We also plan to meet remotely over the summer. We're going to do a call-in. Because we want to start planning for next year, promoting things like walk to school day, and then in the spring there's bike to school. There's a lot of things that are national events that have to do with wellness and health that we can start to put on the calendar, and we'd like to figure out a way to start to get behind that for the coming year. We realize that it'll be important for us to plan over the summer. And then as it relates to that, just talking about having put in a lot of effort and having had partners work with us successfully to have a successful event, how best to get that out to the community and communicate that, which I think we just really do need to come up with some sort of either point person, a communications point person, or some understanding of how the district is going to handle things like this going forward. Whether it's with our vendor or and talking about that relationship, or coming up with some sort of plan. I can certainly take a stab at writing a plan and how it's done. Additionally, just around the community, We Play had their annual sale this past weekend, which I don't know how many of you have gone, but it's kind of an amazing thing to behold, and so many volunteer hours, so much work. It's really, an incredible accomplishment, and they really do contribute so much to the community, so it was nice to see. A new organization called Greening Beacon did a cleanup day on Saturday, and they picked locations all around the city, and I live right by the location where my kids and husband volunteered, which was Madam Brett Park right behind the homestead. And I don't know if on your drive to work along Teller, if anybody drives along Teller, there were about 15 bags of trash that they hauled out of there. It was and then the rec center partnered, and they had a big it's kind of like barbecue later with donated food from like Barb's Butchery and a bunch of local businesses, and it was really nice, great event, and that's pretty much
Cool.
important.
Meredith?
We had a curriculum committee meeting today. We were ready to read proposals for curriculum writing needed that would happen over the summer, but there were no proposals yet. So we are going to meet again on May 10th and be ready to read then. And it sounds like the calendar will look a little bit different, yes, next year, because this is a little late for the high school to the way that they roll out their classes and do their scheduling. So, but it's great to have a process that we can rely on, and looking forward to that, more of that. And Cecilia, I wanted to ask you actually if there's any update on the TEALS grant, if you've heard back from them or where that is at.
So timely to ask. So we did a few back and forth calendaring discussions with the reps. It's New York, New Jersey area from Microsoft, and they're coming the week of May 2nd. I believe we are now confirmed for a meeting time on the 2nd. So that's the next phase of the conversation. It will include high school administration, some potential staff, and we'll discuss what the next phase of planning forward for the grant is. I'll know better after that meeting where we stand as a district in terms of receiving the grant and it being in implementation for September. So we're making progress.
Great.
We're not out of the running yet.
Super.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, so just a reminder that the next policy committee meeting is Monday, May 1st at 7 p.m. Monday. Also, and I just, Cecilia, this isn't something that I don't know if our district has to address right away, but it's something that I had seen through a school district in another state, and then it was brought to my attention that there's a show that kids may be watching, 13 Reasons Why, that may depict suicide in like a more glamorous fashion. As someone who has worked in a district who has dealt with the after effects of students committing suicide, it's something that I want to throw out there in whether or not we need to take a stand, whether or not we feel like there's something in the district that our school psychologists and social workers, they may be dealing with things, because I think part of things that are maybe presented in the show is that, reaching out to professionals in the district, they're seen in a non-responsive light, which is not true. I'm a former school psychologist, so I get worried about that, and that's something that I worry about the mental health needs of all the students, and so I just want to make sure, and I know that I'm kind of looking at you because of overseeing the school psychologists and social workers and the guidance counselors in the district who may deal with things that may come up, and I don't know if it's an issue in Beacon. It's just something that I just happened to read in another state, and then somebody had brought it to my attention locally.
So
well.
I don't know to be able to answer in the moment.
Right. That's fine.
I will presume that there's probably at an individual level, but there may also be some discussions on a department level, so we can find that out.
Okay.
It's something that is just kind of cropping up just in the last couple of weeks in terms of that show and raising to awareness. And I do think, certainly mental health issues and support for that is a priority for us. We did some parent and student outreach using the resources of NAMI earlier in the year into bringing forward mental health awareness. But let me go back and check with some of our staff
I'm not
about
asking
it.
for something.
Yeah, no, but we do need to have it on our radar, and there's a local school district for us that is just going through this right now within the last week in terms of a recently graduated student. So it's something that we need to be mindful of, and I'll be able to get a sense of the extent to which those conversations are happening in what ways.
Right. I just know that there's some districts who are putting out a letter and such. So I'm not saying that that's the route that we need to take,
Right.
but it's just something that maybe
So
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely, it needs to be know this on our radar. 2, know what we're doing, what strategies we have at a school level, and whether it's a communication that goes out like at a single school level, or it's one that we take as a whole, but district-wide.
Okay.
So I'll
I
get back to you
know
on that.
that it's the show's geared towards kids, and I think a lot of parents might not even have awareness that
My
it's.
son just brought it up.
Yeah.
Saying, I want to watch this show.
I know.
I didn't know anything about it.
It definitely treats it like a whole mystery, and it's not a good.
And I'm just saying, I've worked in a district that has dealt with the aftermath of such incidents, so, you know, I'm always cautious and, you know, want us to be doing our best.
Absolutely.
You're good?
Yeah, I'm good now.
Annie?
So I just need, if possible, some updates on Naviance. Do we have a date for the board workshop? Have the employees who will be working on the system been advised as to when the training will begin for them? I guess that question is for Anne Marie.
I'm getting emails actually from the company directly,
Okay.
but the process is a cross contract that needs to be signed by me, which I have not seen yet, but we are working on doing that. My understanding is the guidance counselors want to get training in the spring, which is fine. It's just a matter of signing the contract so it can go through BOCES. So we reached out, the union representation of the BTA reached out to both Celia and I, and we told them that it was a go for 17-18 and that they can start scheduling their training. But I need to sign that cross contract, which I'm trying to, I'm getting it from the outside. Obviously, putting it through BOCES, we get BOCES aid, so that's the way we really want to move forward with it. But I have not gotten it yet, but it should be an email, so it should be really quickly done.
Thanks.
The other part is that we're in discussion to roll it out just at the high school. I know that originally the proposal was for both the middle school, high school. I don't want to bite off more than we can chew. I think the high school is the first place to get it up and running, and then bring it down to the middle school after the first year. Just to if you do too much at once, it won't be successful. So I'm worried about that.
The middle school the administrators get trained on it now?
They would not. They could be, but I don't see it as an advantage to be trained now for something they're not going to use for a year, rather than waiting to do that, because it would be an add-on.
And then I know back in March, I think it was, in February, Grow Your Own was making its way. So
Would you like an update?
I do. Thank you.
Okay. So over spring break, both Dr. Sieverding, Ms. Sims, myself met with Dr. Sullivan and Dr. Fields, who is their new clinical fellow at Marist College, to discuss their programming. They actually are going to begin a process of really reassessing and reevaluating what that program looks like in terms of supporting and connecting high school students, getting them college ready, and helping to open up pathways of opportunities, perhaps at Marist College, but certainly with a college experience. So Ms. Sims, our assistant principal at the high school, along with Dr. Fields, will be doing some collaborative work. She's going to come here, arranged through our administrators, to spend some time and connect with the students who participated in the program last year, to be able to help inform that. She comes from Indiana University and was responsible for creating what at Indiana University is the Belfours Scholars Program, but it is that notion of supporting high school students and opening up pathways for college and career readiness, and creating opportunities for them to get to experience college life and some early college learning opportunities there. So we had really good conversation. It was an introduction. This would be something that gets planned out in collaboration between for ourselves with Marist College, for them to begin implementation in September.
Okay, that's
all right, and so there'll be a whole plan. They would very much welcome the opportunity to come and to share some information once they get a little more solidified.
I think in parents, what happens is the students don't know, come home and tell their parents like what's going on. So if there's some advance notice to the parents that this actually exists, maybe the buy-in from the parents can actually get the kids encouraged.
Yeah, and we had lots of some quick examples of ways and things that they want to think about in terms of what the program is and how they go about it and what recruitment looks like. We have the benefit and the advantage of being the pilot district with Marist College for this program, and so that provides us an opportunity to really work collaboratively with them to design something that's going to support our students And then ultimately what they hope is that that will serve as a model that other districts might also begin to participate in. But certainly they're invested with us, as well as what we want as opportunities for our students. And so there will be a whole plan, but certainly they can come and just do a general overview with us in terms of what may be in the future forecast for September and talk about timelines. But then into August, into September, there will be formal recruitment activities for parents and students, so that it becomes widely known.
Yeah. And then the marathon project is coming, because I'm confused. I know that there's a Girls on the Run
There's two
happening
different
at the
programs.
elementary level, right?
Marathon
So-
Project is middle school, high school, which is currently going on.
So it is already?
Yes.
So is Ms. Pomerico the point
The point person is someone from Cape. Her name is Nicole. So she's the one that ran. We don't have a point person specifically here in the district. We ran into a little bit of problems with the unions. So
Okay.
that was before Nicole had started with Cape.
Okay.
So she's the one that actually runs it. Ms. Pomerico is involved in it, and there are
Okay.
other staff members involved in it. The Girls on the Run is an elementary program. I know for sure it's at Glenham, and I
And
believe
JVF.
it's at JVF as
Yeah.
well.
So in order for I should reach out to who, Nicole or Ms. Pomerico?
If you reach out to Ms. Pomerico, she can give you the
Okay.
email address,
Okay.
or to me.
Yeah, I just want to know, like, if there's days of,
Cape is Committee on Alcohol Prevention.
so it's a running program that talks, it's like prevention for all those, keeps kids engaged. And then on the 19th, I attended the Dutchess County Democratic Committee on education. They had a forum on education, and it was called Education for All. And there was a panel discussion on national, state, and local education issues, and it was held in Poughkeepsie. And it was Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney was there, Jasmine Gripper from the Alliance for Quality Education, and then Sherry Welcy was also there from the DCC Board of Trustees. It was very, very interesting. And what I enjoyed the most about it is that some students that attended the Poughkeepsie School District, one gentleman got up and he talked about programs coming back to his district and how he finds that if there were more things to help him stay engaged and his friends, then they would stay out of trouble. And so it really spoke to me, because I find that if kids have something to do that's active and positive, then they'll do that, but they have no alternatives, then they tend to get themselves into trouble. So hearing that from a student's perspective just made me feel better, because sometimes I feel like I'm so old because I'm always desiring that kids stay engaged. But when kids ask to be engaged, I find that to be, phenomenal. So that event was very, very nice and very well attended, and even some Beacon people were also there as well. And then I guess safety is, we're waiting, right?
Well, safety is going to come to the forefront, because we have to review our safety plan.
Right, because I was looking at,
in June.
I did look at the plan. I saw some stuff. I don't know if what I was looking at was old, because it had like Harvey or whatever I was looking at. So
Was it on the website? Because there is information on the website. It's in general format, like not to give specifics, and it is
no,
at
I have
building
a whole
level.
packet. So whatever I was looking at, really probably was old.
It was old, right? It was outdated. So we need to do that again. So we will need to reconvene the district safety, because at the last meeting in June we have to review it to move forward.
So do they tend to meet during the day, or is it during the evening?
They're usually later in the afternoon.
So if somebody could try to give
Sure.
me a head so I could schedule myself.
Okay.
And and I just want to send my condolences out to Mr. Casal and his family on their loss. Loss is never easy, and so I feel for you and your family. That's it.
So today we received an update about the PE. I'm just going to ask Anne Marie or Cecilia to discuss how you came up with the numbers and what it means to us here.
So we're going to tag team a little bit. So I'll start. So Cecilia and I spent, first Cecilia's going to talk about the meeting that she had with some of the teachers, but on there, the sessions and the sections we tried to calculate out, and it's a lot of information, but what it shows was if we were going to offer PE 3 times a week, and then we did other models like if we were going to do art or music or library 2 times a week, even though we don't do that now, we were trying to do scenarios.
So that's the max.
Right, that's the max. In some
For
variation.
all of them.
Right, but we couldn't offer all of them
At the
specific
same time.
because you can only equal six,
Yep.
6 sessions. So we were looking more at staffing first, because at the max, if you were going to offer it, how staffing would be affected. So the bottom of the memo, you'll see if you were offering PE three times in a 6-day cycle, you would need to add at least, it was more like a 1.1 FTE of a teacher, so you would need to add a teacher. What worried us more was if that happened, we did the scenarios of 2 times a week and showed the staffing at a little over 3 for art, a little over 3 for music, and a little over 3 for library, okay, based on the number of sections. So as you know, we have 3 art teachers currently in the elementary, so that's not an issue. That could easily be done. Music, right now currently we have 4, but we're going to pull 1 to be the elementary band teacher, so 3 would be reasonable if you were to offer 2 to everyone. So library media, we have 4, and the calculation came out to 3.4, so we were a little overstaffed in that aspect. But as you know, if you give PE for 3 times in a 6-day cycle, you are only giving 1 library, 1 art, and 1 music. So saying that, I'm saying that our staffing is complete at offering 2. At offering 1, we're going to be extremely overstaffed in certain areas. And I know the discussion part, and I may ask Celia to comment on this part, we did bring together a group of people from all the areas to talk about, to talk about curriculum, to talk about how we can move forward, but also try to get closer to the mandate on PE. So.
Okay, so as Ms. Corderoni said, we asked union leadership to participate. Mr. Wright and I facilitated. We asked content coordinators for each of the special area disciplines, as well as for those where the content coordinator is a secondary staff member. We asked for some representation from each of the 4 elementary schools, but across the disciplines. We met last week to discuss. One with the notion, severalfold, of looking at what are the regulatory requirements across each of the disciplines for instruction in their respective areas. We asked to talk about what is happening currently with regard to the use and documentation of movement breaks and other planned physical activities at the classroom level that makes up the difference between PE instruction with the PE teacher versus the balance with the use of movement breaks and other curriculum activities. We talked about, and I asked about examples from all of the disciplines of what might be current existing models, even if they were isolated as individual examples, that are interdisciplinary collaboration and lesson implementation, and what the feasibility was of us doing that large scale for September. We shared with the staff that the superintendent's recommendation was initially not to reduce any staff in any special area instruction, and that I, and Mr. Wright have a commitment that continues to be the recommendation. So while we can fix with a staffing change and a reduction of staffing potentially to be able to bring PE to 3 times in a 6-day cycle, it would mean with some impact across potentially art, music, and library media. Classroom teachers that were a part of it, and I asked the 4 content coordinators for each of the elementary schools in a prior meeting.
Just before
Yes.
you go too far, I
Yep.
have a question that, so you said that it would require a reduction of staff?
Well, if we have PE, if we increase PE, the PE teachers, we will only be able to do that K5 for all students to have every other day PE instruction. We have an issue that we would, in only being able to provide art, music, and library media one time as an instructional class for students.
in our largest elementary school, if we looked at what the teaching sections would be, that would be 17 sections of instruction. 36 sections constitutes a full-time position. Even if we talked about push-in support, which there was a lot of discussion and feedback of the feasibility of doing that large scale for September and doing it effectively, we're talking about a teacher who would have more than half of their time be embedded within general instructional time with a general education teacher in a model that we don't have something to build off of right yet.
Right,
And that
so,
seems like a big stretch.
but that's not even looking at the secondary need as well, because they're K-12 certified, correct? If they're in specials, I'm asking, I don't know.
Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So there might be some openings where we could utilize, because I'm not in favor of reduction of staff. I don't want that to be, well, the board didn't do it because it would require a reduction, or the board went for it and it was reduced. That's not what the option is, so I don't want that to be construed or anything. I think that we could be creative in how we utilize current staff and not let people go if it's built into the budget.
Well, that wasn't our recommendation. So there is, so I think the goal, I think what I'm hearing is the goal, we want to move towards being in compliance with PE. I don't believe that it's something that could go from what we have to full compliance, but I think there needs to be movement close to that. The problem is that we have one special a day. That the child's schedule all day is pretty packed with ELA, math. They have social studies and science every other day. So it's difficult, impossible to do 2 specials a day. I think if that were the case, then we could do that. But moving to PE every other day will impact the program. Even if we don't talk about staffing, right? It will impact what kids see. And I think that the board has asked us to look at interdisciplinary work, which we don't disagree with, but I don't think could happen in a full scale to completely subscribe every teacher in every section, and that's a worry. The other part was Celia did get in the meeting there is going to be a little pushback from elementary teachers because they complain to us now that a classroom teacher they feel they don't have enough time with their children. There's a lot of pullout for different reasons for children. So again, you're bringing a special area teacher in there. It could happen, but there's going to be a lot of thought and a lot of curriculum writing that would have to happen for them to share. You have 2 teachers sharing that kind of space. So I'm not saying it can't happen, but I don't see it all rolling out completely to make sure all teachers are subscribed. And then to only have one pullout of art, music, and library.
So we currently have at the elementary, this is just at elementary level, we currently have how many physical education teachers? 4?
We have 4.
So it would be an increase of 1, basically.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Then for art, we currently have how many teachers at the elementary level?
We have 3.
3. So how are we covering the 0.4 now? Because there's no increase in art.
That's assuming that we did art twice a week for every grade level. K-5.
So currently, right now, not every elementary school has art twice.
That's
in a
correct.
6-day cycle.
That's correct.
What's happening right now is that teachers' schedules are being filled out to constitute their 36 section assignments across the 6-day
Doing what though?
cycle.
Filled out. That's a broad term. Like, what are they doing?
So some grade levels might have it twice a week, but every grade level can't have it twice a week, so some grade levels might have it once a week. But when we compare that to another school, because the number of overall sections of classrooms in the schools are different, that particular special area teacher might not do it at the same frequency at a particular grade level because their schedule is filled out or is
Right, so they don't all
scheduled
have
out
it 2
by-
times in a 6-day cycle.
Correct.
Right, but
That's
what
correct.
we do not have also is that all students at any one particular grade level get the same number of specials consistently.
Say that again.
So if I'm in 2nd grade, if my child's in 2nd grade in JV Forrestal compared to Glenham, compared to South, compared to Sargent, there is not consistency, and I'm just picking 2nd grade because it could be any one grade.
Yep.
There is not necessarily consistency across all the special area disciplines.
So it's not like 2nd grade has art twice in a 6-day cycle. You could be at Forrestal and get it once, and then you could be at Glenham and get it twice?
Yes.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
So what about music? How many music teachers do we have currently?
Elementary music teachers, we currently have 4, but we are taking one to be the elementary band teacher.
All right,
The
but so
band and
this
chorus
year,
are pull-outs, yes.
this year they're fully prescribed?
The music program, because
Yeah.
those teachers are teaching band, chorus, and general music.
Okay. And then the library media specialists, we have 4.
Correct.
And they're utilizing their time by
So-
helping teachers with the technology, I'm assuming?
But they're also doing, in the upper grades, in some schools, and I can't speak across, some of them are doing, some grade levels one will get library, one will get media. So again, we're trying to make it a little bit more uniform across, because we hear that that's what the parents are saying to us,
Okay.
that we're not being uniform across.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, I just wanted to
Yeah,
get
that's
a
okay.
picture of it
Mhm,
first.
Clarification.
So then, in your discussion, did you talk about maybe phasing in with some grades and not others? Or like, was it just, okay, are we going to try and implement this K-5 and that's it? Or was there a discussion about, okay, maybe we might do K-1 3 times in a 6-day cycle, and then the next year after having 2, 3, and the next year after 4, 5? Or was it, we're going to look at to see if we could do it all K-5?
We looked at it from multiple lenses. One, is it feasible to implement K-5? Then we talked about, is it feasible to start phasing it in, ideally at kindergarten level, at least to begin with. Some of the challenges also include what is it, and this is a tie-in to how special area classes are used as general classroom teachers' prep time, and how the instructional blocks are set up. There was talk of, and we reviewed that, several years ago, and I don't know how far back, depending on who was in the room, but teachers can recall that when that there would be shorter sessions or of 30-minute or 35-minute instructional blocks, and then those happened more frequently. But then that becomes a complexity that needs a little more time to solve, with a group of folks. But that becomes a consideration of contractual issues with teacher prep coverage, and not impossible to solve. None of these are impossible to solve. What we also talked about and we reviewed, I shared with all of you a state education guidance document that was put out as a guidance for elementary physical education. You may or may not have had opportunity to take a look at that, but we as the group last week looked at as a whole group what the state put forward as sample strategies and scenarios of there some ways that they offer as suggestions, not mandates, of how districts could move towards compliance for the 120 minutes of instructional time. Also, so there's a couple scenarios, and one sample offer, and we looked at that, was if a district offers PE 2 times in an instructional cycle, that then they would take the total number of minutes of that instructional time and subtract that from the 120 minutes a week requirement, and then use either through whole school movement lessons that may be designed and implemented, and they gave some examples of video or morning announcements or set time in the school routine, where the number of minutes per day that would be necessary to make up that gap. And that is a feasible, not the ideal, but it is a feasible scenario of how the state education department has an expectation.
And I'm not looking
So,
for the justification.
yeah, no, but I wanted,
because
because
I understand that there's the.
yeah, but I mean, but as a group, we talked about it because there's a sense or a perception like we are grossly out of compliance because we're not doing it as instruction by the PE teacher. One of the things that was really important, we talked about as a group, and for all of our staff and our family and community to know, is we value all of the disciplines. And so that's why I wanted us collectively to come together, and it was a really good meeting. Because we're not going to pit one discipline or department needs as being more important, less important, or higher priority, and that we had to like look at it collectively. They, as a group, we generated in a very short amount of time some really creative ideas and solutions with what could be the next immediate step. It's not necessarily the long-term fix, but what is it that we could do effectively for September? And one of the recommendations we'll continue to put forward is that we allocate monies to do some interdisciplinary curriculum writing across all the disciplines, and that we pilot that so that then we can look to how we can implement and what the degree of effectiveness is of art embedded as a part of general instruction with some of the other core subject areas, music as a part of that, PE as a part of that. This particular document gives some examples of incorporating developmentally appropriate movement activities for particular grade levels that address both PE and English or science or math or social studies. So there's more work to be done, but that's kind of where we land.
So can you just state for the community what the recommendations are from this group that met to go forward?
So the recommendation from the group is if we had what we talked about is if we have an established start time, that's the same start time across all the schools, we actually wouldn't impact the entirety of the instructional day. But if for the PE teachers to come together and to do some lesson design over the summer, that they could either be leading as part of the startup of the school-wide morning routines, announcements and routines of the school, by video over the announcement board or some other ways that they may come to, what a 6 to 8 minute morning startup movement would look like. And that's the right, that's a feasible right next step. In addition to that, as we have a new director of athletics and PE coming into the district, we have a district-wide K-12 PE plan that is in need of review and revision. What makes sense is that is a committee that starts immediately at the start of the school year, and that they put forward a revised plan that's going to build in short and long-term goals. What we talked about as a group was if we had an established goal and end date of we want to be able to offer PE 3 times in a 6-day cycle, if it's that, by the year 2020. And then what are the steps we need to take to get us towards there? How do we phase that in or build it over time? How can we transition to more interdisciplinary curriculum work and think more flexibly about the way we deliver instruction across all disciplines and content areas? So that's where we are. And that's what the recommendation is for what can be done effectively this year.
So I did have one more question, but I guess you kind of said it, because I looked at the possibility of shortening the class, the minutes. So if you shorten the minutes, then you wind up with extra minutes, but I didn't know what the rules were on that, like doing less minutes, because if you do that, then you're not taking away anything but the minutes, but then you're adding in the component for the gym, but I guess.
But we want to be careful about taking away instructional minutes, so that's what we worry about. So, Celia talked about, prep time and teacher contracts, but at the bottom line, we're worried about, ELA and math and science and social studies. So again, that's a consideration. So if you reduce the minutes of instruction to give more special time, there is a disadvantage for that. The teachers, we need a certain amount of instructional time a day for kids, so.
No, I just was asking, I was just looking at it, because over time, things change, so.
I think, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I think that this sounds like a good start in the sense that there's a lot of data about integrating movement into classrooms and how that helps the kids learn the rest of their subjects. So I guess there's part of me that wonders if pushing so hard to have 3 distinct PE classes per week would be as valuable as really helping the teachers to integrate PE into their lessons on a daily basis. And I certainly would rather see that than to lose. I want to see the other specials to be consistent across all 4 elementary schools, and increased rather than decreased to make it match. But I just feel like there's room for all of this, even though I know it's such a tight schedule. It seems very doable to me. But yeah, I get it. That's a lot to kind of figure out before.
Well, and I think the other thing too is there's some of these things that are happening already. Like, I mean, even on some of our classroom teachers, they looked at some of the lesson examples and said, oh, well, those are things that we do, but how do we
There's no
quantify
record.
it? And then other things we talked about, like Calico Ball, as that's coming up. Like Calico Ball is an activity that incorporates many disciplines, inclusive of PE, but do we think about it that way? And do we quantify the way we go about the work in that way? Hudson Valley Seed is an activity that we kind of are thinking about as, you know, an enrichment activity and a standalone, but maybe as we need to start thinking about what are all the interdisciplinary connections, because it's not just a science enrichment alone.
Yeah.
There's things about it that are nutrition. There are things about it that they can, you know, build upon, or we can build upon,
Well, this is
as it relates across
21st
disciplines.
century.
That is exactly what we're talking about, yeah. But there's work to be done around it.
So, I thank you for meeting as a group and coming up with this, and it's going to sound like a dig or a backhanded compliment, but it's really not. This is a good document. I would love to have this be started at the beginning of when we started the PE conversation a while ago, because I think that we could have started some of that curriculum writing and stuff during the school year. I think this is awesome. The recommendations, I think that we're getting there. And I think that this is something to definitely grow off of. So I do appreciate you guys taking the time, meeting, and addressing it, and it's awesome. I just would like to see it earlier, but that's
I would have
okay.
too, but we do what we can when
Yep.
we can, and we'll just keep moving it forward.
Okay.
Do you think, as long as you have collected this data, do you think that the board should be provided with how many times each school is doing the specials every? Because I feel like we always kind of talk about that, but I never feel like I get a full understanding of who's getting what.
I think it'd be better if you got what we're proposing to move forward, right? Because I think,
Yeah, but it would be nice to know what compared to what
So
is
would
now.
so I mean, an easy way to do that is, would you like us to share what each school's master schedule looks like? I don't know if you need that. That would.
I think she's just
maybe-
looking at trying to create equity across the board, and if you're gonna do that,
You gotta
if we
know
come
what-
from this place, then
Yeah.
it's good to always have a frame of reference, because when people refer to things, they say, oh, this is what we have, and
Right.
you say, well, this is what you had before, but look, it's an improvement. So I think if we're trying to, you know, create the equity across the board, seeing what that looks like again is.
Yeah, if that's
Okay, so why don't we take a look back at some of the things we used, just some of our planning documents as we were
Whatever's
teasing
easy.
apart
Yeah,
the
I mean,
master
whatever's
schedule.
easiest for
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
I don't want you to have to spend a bunch of time making a chart for me, but I just.
Okay.
All right. Any unfinished business?
Sorry, I was wondering, could you give an update on the AD position? Like, is the committee forming? What's going on with the hiring committee for the?
Yeah, so for the, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. You're
Want me
good.
to?
That was nothing. The Meredith.
The process is in motion. We're looking to begin that. Our candidates through screening for interviews are in a process of being notified. Committee members have been asked, and so that's actually beginning the end of this week.
Who's on the committee?
By name or by role?
Titles.
Titles, okay, so central office, school administrators, teachers, both PE department, coaches, school nurses, wellness committee, parents, both student athlete parents as well as parents, but representing My Hope, elementary, middle, and high school. What I did was reached out to several folks at once that represent some of those stakeholder roles, and asked, if interested and willing and available members would let me know, so that we could get things moving.
So is Karen going to
timely.
send something to the wellness committee, or
What's that?
is Karen going to send something to the wellness committee, or has she already picked people from that?
She's also she's participating, and we have another wellness committee member,
Okay.
parent who's participating.
Good.
I think I got everybody.
Alrighty.
I had a question. So the Smart Schools Investment Plan, I think you've seen Tim Sheets update. So are we all set for the hearing for the board meeting on May 8th?
Yes.
And then final draft to be voted on by the board on June 5th, depending on comments?
That's correct. He had originally wanted to do the hearing this evening, but it didn't get in the paper. It had to be a 2 full weeks. We wanted to make sure we met the legal requirement. So he will do the hearing right before I will do the budget hearing on May 8th.
Okay, the 2 hearings on the 8th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
I need a motion to approve the BOCES administrative budget for the 2017-18 school year in the amount of $4,476,438.
So moved.
Georgia, the second.
Second.
No, can you do that?
Kenya,
It's all you.
comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. I need a motion to vote for Mr. Thomas Hurley and Mr. Michael Reel for the 2 vacancies on the Board of Cooperative Education Services.
So moved.
That was Craig Wolf. A second.
Second.
Georgia Patchen. Comments or questions? I just have a comment. I think it's great that Mr. Reels is continuing to represent Beacon on the Dutchess board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 7-0. The use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relative routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and the item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issues. Is there anything that any board member would like to be told? Craig?
13.13.
13.13. Craig, what is that? Just
The fiscal management goals.
okay. Is there anything else? And just remember, for minute purposes, we removed 13.15 prior when we were reviewing the
I
agenda.
have that.
So I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is 13.02 through 13.14 minus 13.13.
So moved.
Georgia, is there a second?
Second.
Meredith, comments and questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 7-0. I need a motion for 13.13.
Motion to approve the second reading and adoption of policy 6,000 fiscal management goals.
Georgia, is there a second?
Second.
Kenya, comments or questions? Craig?
Yeah, my concern is with number 5, the district shall seek and receive all state and federal funds for which it qualifies. I feel like we're putting ourselves in a box here that might be constructed in a fashion, given what's going on in Washington, where the strings that are attached are ones that may suddenly come up and be unpleasant to us. I think you've all paid attention to what's going on in Washington, and you may recall that we unanimously opposed the candidate for the head of the education department. This worries me.
Craig, I didn't hear the initial language that you said that you...
Number
It's
5.
the
Number
district
5.
shall seek and receive all state and federal funds for which it qualifies. What if the strings are so odious that we don't like it?
So we don't,
I mean, there might be some programs we don't want to apply for.
I think that's
As
always
horrible as
an
that may sound, it may actually come true.
Isn't shall mean that you don't have to?
Yeah.
Can we modify this a little bit so we don't build ourselves into a box and then somebody says, well, you have a
I don't
policy that says
understand
you
why
have to
we're
do it?
building ourselves into a box. I mean, this actually came from like our policy server.
Nah,
So Craig, I
That
I
doesn't
wanted
make
to,
it
so
right.
what, but yeah, so I mean, you're saying that, and I understand what's going on, but there's still some things that we do qualify for state aid, we still go back for state and federal aid. So I think using the shall seek, I mean, we're always looking. It doesn't mean we have to go after any particular thing. And if we don't like what's attached to it, we don't have to apply for it.
Well, if you look at the literal meaning of what that sentence says, it might not mean what you think it says.
What does it
It
mean?
says shall.
So what does
Yes.
shall mean?
What does
Means
shall
will,
mean?
doesn't
It
it
means
mean-
you're going to do it come hell or high water.
Well-
And then you're going to not only seek it, but you're going to accept it.
I didn't think it meant
That's
hell
what
or
I
high
didn't
water.
think it
I
like-
thought it
like
meant,
that.
that's must, I thought.
Yeah.
What?
I thought must was hell or high water. Shall I thought meant that you're gonna pursue it and look into it.
Right.
May would be that.
No.
May.
I think what he's saying though is that we are, yeah. Brandon's a lawyer. But don't talk to us, Brandon. I think that we are dependent on state aid though. I mean, that's what we've learned from this past budget going through. So we waited for confirmation that we could go forward with our budget as is based on what came from the state. And I think as much as I don't want to belabor the discussion, I think what Craig is saying is that as we are a district that seems to depend on money coming from the state, it might start to become something that comes with things that go against our values as a district.
But we're not there yet, and we can always revise policies.
Okay, that's fine.
That's what I would say to that.
And we need to revise policies. It's not like that it's written today and then it's forever set in stone. We have to review them.
Well, what
We could
if
vote
we,
against it.
The only other part I'd like to mention too, when you're talking about federal funds, so we get between $1 and $2 million in federal funds. Shall seek means that we need to apply for them. We need to make sure that the budget, although we're allocated the money, if we don't put a grant application in, we won't receive it. So I think, and I'm looking at it from a fiscal hat. Fiscal management goals means the board is telling the fiscal people that they should do their due diligence and go out and bring in the money that they need to do that for Title I, for 611. So I understand what you're saying, but this whole policy is talking about the financial. Do due diligence to the taxpayers. Do the best you can for taxpayers. Otherwise, if we don't go out and get the federal grants that we are entitled to, it will mean raising the levy more or cutting program, because that's a significant amount of the budget. So I understand what you're saying, but I think we might be overthinking this a little bit. I think this goal is to tell the people that work in the district to basically do their job and go out and get what the district is entitled to do.
Okay, so basically what you're saying though is that it is susceptible to the board approval, right?
Well, you're saying if you put may in there, may means, that this is how I see it, may means the business official doesn't have to put the budget in to get it,
I'm
right?
not suggesting may. I'm suggesting we should think, is there a better way to phrase this that doesn't create a presumption that we're automatically, without further thinking about it, seeking and receiving whatever comes down the pipe.
But, and I think that you're trying to do forward thinking, which I appreciate. However, I want them to apply for all funding, and if there's stipulations to it, they need to update us, because then we can act upon it.
How about instead of the word receive, substitute consider, shall seek and consider all state and federal funds for which we qualify.
I don't want them to consider
No, we want
a
them to receive.
IDA grant, or,
You just want to take it automatically, whatever the strings are.
That's not what we're saying.
right now, there's no strings attached to it, so yes. Are there strings attached to it right now?
Well, hold on a sec. What I was suggesting is, instead of changing the sentence that it says in or 5, just basically add conditional to board approval.
But he's saying that there's things that it disrupts. I think what they're saying is it disrupts the flow of business. It's incumbent on us, if we care about these issues, to stay ahead of them. And if we start to see policy changing in Washington that is going to impact how we receive money in the district, then we will need to change our policies. However, what they're describing is the way that they're going to, the way that business is conducted, and that they need just sort of to have our directive right now to go after things that presently don't have strings attached to them, that aren't changed, that we don't want to be considering everything that comes through. We don't have time for it. If nothing's changed, we want them to go after it. We want them to receive it. But in the
Suppose somebody comes up with a title grant that says you can no longer teach about contraception.
well,
Have you heard that
we're-
happen? Yeah.
if we would be
But
aware.
we
of
could
that.
go
I think I'm off the mark.
we could go hypotheticals all night. I think that we have to address it as it comes up. So if there's something where there's strings attached, then we would have to address it if that's something that we don't like
You
the
asked
strings
if that has
attached.
happened, and if you see some of the bills that have come across committees and stuff, there have been bills like that.
But there's bills that are going, they've been introduced, they haven't gone through committee, they haven't passed the House, they haven't gone to the Senate, they haven't been adopted as legislation. So it's good that you're seeing bills that are being introduced, so there's some awareness, but it's up to us to actually follow the progress. If there was a bill that was introduced that said that was introduced that made it out of committee and that made it to the Senate and then was adopted as a law of the land, then we certainly should change our policy to reflect our values as a district. But it's incumbent on us to pay attention to that. Right now, what we're talking about is disrupting the flow of business. We don't even know what monies we receive in total, and we're basically saying to them, hold your horses, don't go after this until we've considered it. That's going to put the brakes on them doing business.
All right, so I think that was a healthy conversation. It's not meant to be a debate, so I'm going to ask all those in favor of 13.13.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Nay.
So that's 5-2. Motion passed. All right. Is there a second executive session? I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
That was Georgia, second by Ken. Comments and questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 7-0.